Well, hello everybody. I hope you guys are having a great day, and if you're not, then I'm sorry. And I hope your day will get much better. Today, I have decided to talk about a very interesting topic that crossed my mind like a million times, especially in the last year, because in 2018, in August of 2018, I had the amazing opportunity to go to the United States as an exchange student, and it was an amazing experience that I can never forget. And I had the pleasure to go and study at the University of Minnesota. It's in Minneapolis, also in St. Paul. It has two campuses, you can say, one on St. Paul and another one in Minneapolis. And I got to hang out with a lot of native Minnesotans, and it was a lot of fun to talk to them, to check their mentality. And I remember the very first week that I went to Minnesota, I was welcomed by staff of the university that were very, very sweet to me, and they represented Minnesota in the best way possible. You know, they told us about the Minnesota nice, and they explained it to us, and not only with words but also with their actions. They were extremely helpful, extremely sweet, which is something that I never took for granted, especially coming from Morocco, which I want to talk to you about more later on. So in this specific podcast, I decided to talk about the Minnesota nice, or how nice people can be in the Midwest especially, and how some people can see that as them being fake, or as them being just passive aggressive, which is even worse than stating your feelings and being upfront about things. So I'm going to talk to you about this subject from an American point of view, and also from a Moroccan mindset, because as I mentioned in my previous podcast, I have lived here in Morocco my whole entire life, except the few months where I was an exchange student at the U. So first of all, I'm going to start with how shocking it was for me to absorb all the nice attitudes that people had when I was in the States, and to be more specific, when I was on campus or even off campus at Minnesota. So first things first, when I landed, I noticed that people were smiling at me a lot. This is something that was different for me. Usually, coming from Morocco, people just mind their own business. They don't smile at you or look at you even. And if you guys look at each other's, you might either stare normally, or you would just try to avoid the eye contact to begin with. So being there in Minnesota and seeing how nice people can be when you just pass by them and they're smiling at you, and they're sort of greeting you with a nod when you walk by them, it was a very nice and lovely touch. I can't deny that I was a little bit weirded out by it at the beginning. Not in a bad way. I was just shocked by how fascinating it was. And I thought that those people might know me and that they were staff of the university. And whenever they nodded at me, my mind would automatically say hello. And I do realize that that's not really a proper response to people smiling at you. It's just them being friendly. It doesn't mean that they know you or that you have to say hi. So it took me like a week to get used to it and to adapt to it. Another very sweet thing is that they would hold doors for you. You know when you walk into a shop or an office or whatever it might be, chances are the person that entered the building before you will hold the door open for you and wait for you to enter, which is extremely sweet. And they would do it and smile at you. and it's just amazing. You know, the level of positive vibes that they spread through those actions is tremendous. And before I move on to talking about how people may see this as being fake or as passive aggressive when it comes to them being mad, I would like to state a few acts for those that are not that familiar with the Midwest or Minnesota nice, so that they would get a clear understanding of just how nice people can be in Minnesota. So I'm going to talk to you about two events that happened to me. There are a lot of stuff that happened, but these two truly meant so much to me. So the first one is, I remember it was near Halloween. It was October, and it was my very first time experiencing Halloween, and I was extremely excited to go to a horror attraction, and I was so excited for it. So I managed to get there with a help of a friend of mine that I made in the States. Her name is Hannah. She did drive me there. It was very sweet of her, and once I entered, I saw that there was a lot of attractions inside the park. There was a lot of different houses, like the Devil's house, the Alien's house, etc. So there were two attractions that were only reserved for those with a VIP ticket. And checking my ticket, I thought they were included because my ticket had a picture of those two attractions in it. So I immediately thought that they were included in my ticket, but they were not. So I went to the office there, and I was like, "Hey, how are you? I want to go to those two attractions." And she was like, "Sure." I told her that my ticket was not a VIP ticket, so I asked her, "How can I upgrade my ticket?" She said, "It's possible. You only have to pay $28, and it will be okay for you to go to those attractions." Now, my face immediately was like in shock. I was like, "What?" I didn't say anything. It was just my facial expression as I reached for my wallet in my pocket. It was weird for me that it was $28, especially that I spent only the price of the ticket was like $20, and like $28 was, to me as a student, or to be more specific, as an exchange student that doesn't have much money, it was a bit expensive. Nevertheless, anyways, as I was reaching for the wallet in my pocket, and mind you, I didn't say any word to that lady. My eyebrows lifted up while I was reaching for my wallet. So I brought my wallet out, and she said, "Hey, where do you come from?" And I was like, I came from Middlebrook, which was the dorm that I was living or staying in. It wasn't, I didn't say I'm from Morocco. I didn't say that I was from another country. I didn't say I'm an exchange student. For all I can tell, she probably thought that I am American because of my accent, and I don't know. I don't see how she could have recognized that I'm not from the States. So, anyways, she was like, "Oh, you came all the way from Middlebrook. Well, you know what? Give me your hand." So I was like, "Okay." I gave her my hand, and she pretty much gave me, like, she put the stamp of the VIP access on my hand, and I was like, "What?" You know, she definitely did not have to do that. And I was shocked, and I was so excited and happy for it. She was like, "Go ahead, have a wonderful time." And I was like, "Thank you so much, and I don't even know from where to begin thanking you." She said, "It's all right, it's all good. Go and have fun." So that's the first thing that happened to me. Well, not the first thing, but that's the first thing that I want to share with you guys. There are a couple of more things. Another one that comes to mind is I was just going around exploring the dorm, and I stumbled upon a door. I was with a friend of mine. Her name is Rucha, and we came across this door, and it says, we started reading the memes and the door, and It was hilarious. It was uniquely decorated. It was very well organized, and it was just fun to look at it. And it had like some notes in there and some pens, and it says, "Please, if you have any comments about me, then please write them down here." And me and my friend wanted to write, "Oh, you have a very lovely door." So as we reached for the pens and wanted to write something, the door opened, and the girl living inside that room, she was extremely sweet, and we told her that we were going just to write something about the door, and she said, "Well, thank you guys," and she was extremely friendly. Like, she was probably one of the friendliest people that I've ever met in my whole entire existence. She invited us, and she offered us some ice cream and cookies, and she was offering us a lot. Like, she was genuinely generous and was trying to get us as comfortable as possible. And she was extremely sweet girl. She brought out a game card, and we were playing. We were hanging out, and we had so much fun. Later on, we were hanging out throughout the whole semester. We got to do some fun activities, and it was a blast. But seeing people that nice is wonderful. And I really think that people in the States, or people that believe that Minnesotans are fake and that they're sort of cold or something, I think they're taking that for granted, and they're not really appreciating how amazing it is. Now, that's when I'm going to try to analyze this from both an American point of view and also from like a Moroccan point of view. From like a Moroccan point of view, having lived in Morocco, people are very generous. They would offer you food. If it's Friday, we usually make a dish called couscous, and we would love to have you come over and eat it. I've heard stories from Peace Corps volunteers telling me that they would randomly knock on people's houses, people's doors on Fridays, and just ask them for couscous, and they would invite them in, and they would have a meal. And that is something that you can't see in the States. You can't just randomly knock on someone's door and ask for food. But it is something that we have in Morocco. But when you compare other actions or the general life, in Morocco, people will probably honk at you for not driving your car right after like the green light turned on. Like, as soon as it turns on, you will hear like honking most of the times. And they're not really going to smile at you when you're walking in the street. And there's just a lot of things. I'm sorry about that. A friend of mine just called me. Anyways, I'm going to continue talking about the subject. So as I said, Moroccans are nice, but they're not as obviously nice as people in Minnesota are. And people honking at you, not smiling at you, being selfish sometimes, very selfish, is not really sweet. And having had the amazing opportunity to live in Minnesota, I feel like the culture of Midwest being nice is something that should never be taken for granted. But from like an American point of view, they say that Minnesotans don't show their feelings, and if you're jaywalking, for example, they would like smile at you, but deep down they truly hate you, and you can see through their smiles, and you can notice that they're angry at you. Well, you shouldn't cross the street jaywalking in the beginning, like to begin with. So it's justifiable that they might be angry at you, and them smiling at you to show how angry they are is just wonderful. Like, I don't see that as a negative point of view from like a Moroccan perspective. But yet again, in the States, they see that as weird and as fake. They also mention this a lot. They say that Minnesotans are like a coconut. They're they're like a peach. Sorry, they're like a peach. They're very soft on the outside, but on the inner side, they're very hard, and it's hard to truly get to know them. Yes, they would be very nice to you, but it's hard to get to know them very easily. And well, I have met different students from different countries, and I've seen how they live and how they treat you, and how you can become their friends. And I understand how frustrating it can be for someone to treat you very nicely, but not truly consider you as their friends. But that still isn't a negative thing at all. The extent to which Minnesotans will be nice to you and then not consider you as your friend is not that high, I would say. I managed to have a lot of Minnesotan friends, and they were nice to me, and it took us probably a couple of conversations before we actually hang out, instead of just randomly meeting up. But it's normal. In Morocco, you can't just be friends with someone from like the very first meeting or very first encounter. So it's understandable. So yeah. Another example that I just thought about is the time when I came back. I was, I think I was in New York. I was traveling around, and I came back to Minneapolis, and because I didn't have an American phone number, I was using Lyft, but didn't really have an American phone number, so the person, my Lyft, couldn't call me, and I got a little bit lost at the airport. People that get picked up by their friends get picked up in a different location than people that are going to get picked up by Lyft. So I was waiting in the wrong spot, and I was waiting for about half an hour before I noticed that I had to go take the elevator up and go to where people with lifts are supposed to be waiting. And I found that my driver was still there. She waited for half an hour, and she was so sweet to us when we were there. She was like, "Oh, I understand you're not familiar with the airport and all that. You're very welcome to Minnesota. I hope you guys will have an amazing stay." And she just had a very lovely conversation with us. And mind you, she did not have to wait for us all that time. And I remember in New York, a friend of mine, she called a Lyft or an Uber. I don't remember which one, but after 5 minutes of calling them, of them waiting, they just left. And that's very harsh, but it's the right thing to do. And in Minneapolis, or in the Midwest generally, I truly believe that all Lyft drivers will genuinely wait for you. And it's extremely amazing and extremely sweet. And that's why I'm saying, the sweetness or how nice in the state or how nice people can be in the Midwest should not be taken for granted. Because trust me, you don't get that kind of treatment when you leave the Midwest. You don't even need to leave the States to feel that people aren't as friendly as they are in the Midwest. You only need to go to, I don't want to name other states, but yeah, you get my point. So yeah, that's all I have to say for now about being passive aggressive and how nice people can be and why people might see it as fake. I personally don't see it as fake. I see it as people who genuinely grew up in a culture that rewards being nice and recommend you to be nice to others for the sake of it. It's just a natural behavior. It's not them being fake, it's them being themselves. When you grow up in an environment in which everyone holds the door for you and everyone is smiling at you in the street, then that's who you become, that's who you are. That's why I really don't see it as them being fake. The same way I don't see you knocking on a Moroccan's house on Friday and asking for food and them accepting you as them being fake. It's just genuinely them being themselves. So with that note, I'd like to end the podcast, and I would like to wish you all a very lovely rest of your day. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and if you guys have any suggestions, if any other ideas about any topic that you might have, then please feel free to send me an email. I will leave my email in the description box, or you can just leave it in the comment section below. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys will have a wonderful rest of your day.